and welcome back to Bookish theories. In today's video, I would like to talk about Tomorrow But Together's magic, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the storyline and concept. Magic is a song that tells the story of a boy stuck in a frozen world that can only be melted by the love of a special you that brings magic into their life. This is the first full English song ever released by Tomorrow But Together, and as they confirmed themselves during the media showcase, the track can be seen as a gift to fans all around the world that made their life magical with their love and support. Now, as it was confirmed by a recent article on Weavers, the general concept of this comeback was inspired by the Snow Queen, which is a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, where a boy named Kai is hit by the shards of the Devil's Mirror that freeze his heart and change his perception of the world. When he's taken by the Snow Queen, Kai is eventually saved by the love of a friend who melts his heart and allows him to rediscover the beauty of the world, and in 0x1 Love Song this concept was portrayed with Yeonjun escaping in a fantasy where he could reunite with his friends and find comfort in their warmth. Now, despite the sci-fi theme of the video, with magic the Snow Queen is once again front and center, but this time this concept is portrayed with a futuristic twist. If in the original story the boy is taken to a reality of eternal winter where he feels no emotions and can only be saved by love, in Magic this concept is compared to a dystopia where emotionless robots took over the world and the magical power of love is the only thing that is able to save it. In contrast to 0x1 Love Song, where the boys themselves were the one that needed saving, this time around the boys are the heroes that save the world with their magic, and as they say themselves in the lyrics, their power comes from none other than you, who are the person that suddenly came through and gave them life by holding them tight. Much like what we saw in 0x1, love is the solution to the equation and what makes them want to live in a moment of their life when they're too afraid to do so. So even if the two songs portray this concept in very different ways, we can say that 0x1 Love Song and Magic can almost be seen as one the sequel of the other. If in 0x1 the you of the story saves the boy by melting his heart with love, in Magic the boy uses the power awakened from it to spread this love and save the frozen world that they're stuck in. And this idea is also reinforced by the symbols that appear in the album and they show up once again in the video. You see, in the three versions of the Chaos Chapter Freeze, the world version was associated to a tear, the boy version had a lightning, while the you version was represented by a heart, and in the video these symbols are an important part of the story as well. If you look closely, the robots wear a uniform with a tear pin on their chest, and this is a clear indication that the robots represent the frozen world that traps the boy in an emotionless reality. This is a world without love and without dreams. It's a society that sees emotions as a weakness rather than as a strength, but when the boys come through, we also see that they have a lightning on their chest, which is the symbol of their magic. As we'll see in a second, their presence triggers a revolution. Their magic changes the world with the power of their heart, and this heart represents the love that you gave them when you came into their life. Now, when it comes to the actual storyline that is told in the video, Tomorrow But Together managed to create an original narrative that makes a lot of callbacks to staples of the genre such as Star Trek and Star Wars. When the boys are in the prison, for instance, they actually teleport with a device that is very similar to the transporter that we see in Star Trek. When they are on the spaceship, on the other hand, the uniforms that they are wearing, as well as the command deck that we see in the video, heavily recall those that we see in Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, right off the bat, this callback is very telling, not only because in our story the boys are the Star Seekers playing the role of members of the Starfleet, but also because in The Next Generation the crew's main goal is to explore new worlds that no one has seen before. This might be a subtle way to say that Tomorrow But Together are literally the next generation of artists who will cross boundaries that have never been crossed before, but when it comes to the storyline, this reference also implies that their role in the video is to bring peace and justice in a world that is ruthless and unfair. Now, in the story, the main antagonists are obviously the robots, but the society that the boys are up against is much more complex than what it seems at first. In Taeyeon's scene, for instance, we can see that the robot society is divided into classes. We have the robot citizens dressed in blue, the robot executives in silver, and the robot king wearing a robe that is very similar to the Jedi uniform in Star Wars. On top of that, the city that we see in the background also recalls the city of Coruscant, which in Star Wars is the planet that houses the Senate, the Court of Justice, as well as the Jedi Temple. This is a city that in the franchise is very much divided into classes and is at the center of the political intrigue of the story as a whole. So if this reference is intentional, then this means that the boys are not fighting against a generic enemy, but rather against the central power of the government of the story. Now this idea is also reinforced by other clues that we can find in the video, because the breaking news broadcasted at the beginning actually give us a lot of insight about what is actually going on. According to the news, Tomorrow by Together belong to the resistance that uses technology in order to fight the robot humanity who has taken over the world. In the story, the boys play the role of rebels who hack the system by disrupting the signals of the machines in order to threaten the government and free the humans who are kept prisoners, and throughout the video we see them actually infiltrating the robot society in order to accomplish this task. At the beginning, however, the broadcast also tells us that the boys have been captured and they will stand trial on the next day, and sure enough, the video begins with them being escorted by the guards who experiment upon them. As we see from a quick shot in Taeyeon's scene, the boys are being taken to court with the Hyperloop, which is a futuristic train that is actually being designed by Elon Musk in real life. This is a vehicle that is meant to transport people and goods at an incredible speed, and even if for now in reality this is just a prototype, the reference to the Hyperloop implies that the story is set on Earth and in the near future. In this dystopia, the robots have complete control over society and actually consider people as a diabolical race, and this is very interesting because back in the Freeze Comeback show, when the boys hacked the system, they were compared to devils as well. Now, if we keep in mind that back in 0x1 Love Song, the saviors were considered angels, while here they are perceived as devils, this contrast might actually be a callback to Angel or Devil, where the boys told us that they could be both depending on the situation. If for the humans, the boys are angels who can save them, for the robots, they are devils that threaten society, and in the video they do exactly that, because even if they get caught, this is far from the end of their rebellion. As it was confirmed by the press release itself, their capture is actually part of an elaborate plan that is meant to destroy the robot society once and for all. Much like what we see in the scenes set in the spaceship, the boys hack the main server in advance by inserting in the system human emotions that the machines cannot decode, so when the boys break in to free the humans and get caught, this is not them being defeated, but rather them following a plan that is meant to take down the government as a whole. As we see in the scene of the trial, the king reviews their crimes and the boys are pronounced guilty, but with a clever visual that juxtaposes the face of the king to the word guilty, the video also tells us that he is the real enemy to fight and not the other way around. In the story, the boys are essentially devilish angels who fight against a ruthless king who embodies justice but is unfair instead. And as it turns out, this idea is also reinforced in the very next scene, where we see that the boy's sentence is none other than a public execution. The day after the trial, the boys step on stage in front of a crowd of robots that has gathered to watch them die, but even if they are about to get killed, we see that the boys are extremely calm about the situation, and this is because them getting sentenced to death was part of the plan all along. You see, since the boys inserted human emotions in the main server before getting captured, this means that now the robots are infected by them like a virus that they're not prepared to fight. So when the boys start dancing, the robots and the king are overcome by emotions and start dancing until they explode into fireworks. Them getting a public execution was essential for their success, because the more machines saw them dance, the more machines would have been affected by the magic of love. So after the boys successfully bring down the government, the Tomorrow by Together ship beams them up because their mission is finally complete. So that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.